In today's video, I want to review the tools and possibilities that currently exist in the text to 3D space. So far this week, I have shown you two other tools for creating your own 3D models. Doodle 3D is an excellent beginner tool, easy to access and to begin creating right away. Tinkercad is the next level up, also easy to access, but adds additional space and power to create the 3D model that you need for your Frame VR space. Today's video is going to review how I tried to solve the problem that I had, which was adding a 3D model of a main moose to a project that I'm working on. As you can see here, I have a 3D model of the main state tree, the main state flower, and the main state flag. And I would like to add a 3D model of a main moose here in the corner. So I did a Google search for text to 3D tools. The first few tools do allow you to generate 3D models, however, they are restricted to certain categories at the moment. The first one, 3DFY, is restricted to interiors and gaming categories at the moment. However, I did test out the text to 3D generation, and it did create this beautiful 1970s sofa, which I might have to use in a future project. Next, I went to Sloyd AI and found a similar restriction in that the AI prompting is restricted to weapons, buildings, furniture, and props, and they will not generate 3D models of people, animals, and scenes at the moment. There were three tools that I found that did allow me to create and test out my prompt for a main moose. For all three tools, I used the same prompt, which was main state animal, moose, 4K, large rack, hyper realistic. The first tool I tested was Masterpiece X, and as you can see, it did indeed create a decent 3D model of a main moose. There are some realistic textures here on the fur, and the rack is complete. However, as you can see, it is not a true 3D model, as they filled in some of the gaps of the rack with a texture. Next, I went to Genie by Luma AI, and again, it did generate a 3D model of a main moose. However, when you zoom in, it is fairly low poly. The eyes and the face were not very clear. The last tool that I tested was Meshy.ai. Like most of these tools, when you first put in the prompt, they will show you a preview of the model, and then you have to decide which of the low-res models that you want to refine. Each stop along the way costs credits, so you also have to decide if the model is clear enough to download, which will cost additional credits. As you can see here, in my opinion, while not perfect, the 3D model of the main moose that Meshy created was the most realistic. As I said, there are some features here that are not exactly right. However, of the models that I was able to generate, this one comes closest to reality. So here we have, within my frame environment, the four models lined up next to each other so that you can review the outcomes. The first one on the left was a main moose that was available within the Sketchfab library. Very low poly, not very realistic. The next one is Masterpiece X Moose. Then to the right of that is the Luma Genie model, which had the added benefit of adding a little platform so that you can see the moose in its natural environment. But if you zoom in, you can see that the face and the clarity of the model is lacking. Lastly, on the right is Meshy AI's moose, which I believe is the most realistic of the four and will be going into my Frame VR main learning environment. The results of this testing are valid as of March 2024, and as I often find myself saying, this is the worst it will likely ever be. There may be other tools out there that allow you to generate text to 3D models, and if you know of any, please let me know, and I'll test them and add them to my tools list.